Welcome to Sales for Nerds. I'm your host and chief nerd, Ruben Swartz. If you started a business because you love serving clients but realized you didn't like the sales and marketing aspect of running that business so much, this is the podcast for you. Sales and marketing doesn't have to suck. It can actually be a lot of fun. And on this show, we're going to teach you how to connect instead of network, teach instead of market, help instead of sell, so you can keep serving people even while you're building your pipeline and growing your business. Now let's get to it. Super excited to have with me to kick off 2025, John Vlach, otherwise known as John, the video guy. John, welcome to Sales for Nerds. I know you are not a drinker. I have a glass of Jinsei Pinot Noir from Russian River Valley right here. Cheers and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. I do have a drink behind me. It is non-alcoholic, but it is nice iced tea. So cheers.
It
Thank you
looks
for
very
having me
good.
on.
Cheers. Well, John, everyone's talking about video these days, for better and for worse. It seems to be where the internet is going. How did you get into video?
Yeah, so for me, I got into video when I was like in high school. I took a few media courses. So it's kind of like you run the student news, you learn how the cameras work, and you work as a classroom to kind of like put on the morning announcements. And when I was in junior, senior year of high school, I went to vocational school where I learned more and deep dove into, learning more about video production. And that's where I determined like, this is what I want to do as a career. I think it's really cool. Video as a platform, being a video editor and creating videos and content. But that's where I started. Upon graduation, I actually interned at a place. I worked there for 9 years. And just this past year, I left that place, started my own business, partly because I'm a YouTuber. So that's part of my business. And then I'm also a freelance video editor. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. But that's how I got into video.
Okay. So tell me, why is video having such a moment these days?
Yeah, I think especially with I think how technology has evolved, especially we all have our phones now and we're all consuming content on social media. It's more accessible and it's more in our face more than ever. I think when I was in high school, it wasn't as I graduated high school in 2015, it was kind of on the rise, but it's very much more prominent today as it was maybe 10 years ago. But I want to say social media has really helped elevate video. It gave video editors a lot more opportunity and also gave a lot of businesses a chance to grow and connect more with their audience and possible customers as well.
Well, let's just say that when I graduated from high school, internet video was not a big thing, and leave it at that. Um,
Yeah.
so I think a lot of people are hearing, oh, you've got to be doing more video. You've got to be on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, forget LinkedIn. People are saying use video, etc. And while that may all be true, it seems a little overwhelming, I think, to a lot of people. So I'm told. How can people kind of figure out a video strategy that's going to be useful for them and also sustainable?
Yeah, I think it can be very overwhelming, especially at the beginning. That's why I recommend just taking baby steps and really just apply it towards your business. The great thing is you can just use your same marketing strategy that you do for other things and you can apply it to video. So if you know your target customers, your target audience, it's just trying to answer the questions that they have in video form and provide value to them. So that way, you can attract your target customers, your target audience. And you just have to treat video, I think, as a platform. You're still solving solutions, providing value. It's just in a different format, similar to like writing a blog, other social media posts, photos, other mediums. It's just video you have to treat just as, a different medium. But I think anyone can really get started. I mean, especially with how accessible it is. If you have a phone, you can get started on using your phone. I will say probably the most important aspect of video is just making sure you have good audio because you want to make sure people understand you. So if anything, I recommend investing in a good microphone possibly. But I think the barrier to entry is really, pretty low, and anyone can really get started today to grow their business.
Well, and you see a lot of these videos where people just record with an AirPod or even just a headset into their phone, which isn't necessarily the greatest audio, but I think in most cases it works fine. And it's better than maybe not doing the video at all because you don't have the perfect studio setup.
When I think of video, and even like starting on YouTube, it doesn't have to be perfect right away. It doesn't have to be stellar. The most important thing is the content. And if you feel like you can provide value to your possible customer, target audience, and deliver, value to them, a video is a great way to do that, and it's a good platform to do that. But I think starting out, it's okay if it's not, Hollywood quality type of content. You know what I mean?
Although really the phone video capabilities are you can create pretty stellar stuff if you want to, right? I mean, we've all got these pretty high-end video cameras in our pocket compared to where the world was 10, 20, 30 years ago. So I
Yeah.
think you hit on something important, which is people are already telling us what they want us to create content wise, right? They're asking questions. Here are the things that I want to ask you about, John. Here's the things, Ruben, that I've got questions about as it relates to your business. So if we're having those conversations, especially when we're having the same conversations, answering the same questions again and again, you mentioned this is yet another medium. So we might have an FAQ on our website. We might also have an FAQ playlist on YouTube or something like that. Is that basically what you're saying?
Precisely. I mean, the questions and the concerns that your customers may have don't change when it comes to creating video content. You can pull directly FAQs, different content that you've already created, and essentially just convert that into video form. The strategy doesn't have to change just because it's video.
And is there an optimal length for these videos?
I think when I think about length of videos, when it comes to YouTube or any platform, really, even LinkedIn, I feel like you should make it as long as it needs to be. So it depends on the topic. If it's a very complex, you're teaching someone how to start a business or, something really complicated, maybe it's a longer video, or maybe it is a simple, just short little video. It really depends on the content. So, for typical YouTube videos, in my case, I like anywhere between 6 to 12 minutes. That seems to be a good, length of time where it's not too long, but, you get to the point, you hit on a few things. You don't want to make it too overcomplicated. Because that's the thing, say if you try to make maybe a video talking about all your FAQs on your website and you have like, 20 to 30 questions that you're trying to answer in one video, it might be a better idea to separate them and make it just like answer one specific question at a time. Or maybe if you can group them, that might be a better way to approach it. But yeah, I would just make it as long as it needs to be to answer the question. You don't want to bore the viewer or overwhelm them.
I think that's great advice. And one of my pet peeves, I love consuming good content on YouTube, but a lot of folks, I feel like they're playing the algorithm or something like that. So they take 1 minute of content or whatever it is and turn it into a 10-minute video. And it just drives me nuts. I'm like, please just get to the point. Just tell me the thing that I came here to learn. Don't tell me about how you're going to tell me and the 8 other things and the 12 reasons I need to subscribe and blah, 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 blah. Is that just because they're trying to rack up view minutes or what's going on with all that? Or they just don't know how to make videos?
Yeah, I think there could be a few reasons why, a creator might make or purposely try to create a long video. I know when it comes to ads, when we're talking about monetization on YouTube, videos more than 8 minutes can display mid-roll ads. So maybe they're trying to reach a certain minute threshold. That way they can pack more ads to make more money. Another reason could be that I think there's rumors. I don't know how true it is, but if YouTube recommends longer videos that are over like 10, 15 minutes more than like short, like 2 to 4 minute videos. I don't really have a strong opinion. And on my channel personally, I've seen both ways. I've seen like a 3 minute video I make get as much views as like a longer video, is, but that could be a few reasons. But otherwise, yeah, I think honestly, just sticking to however long the video needs to be is a good baseline. And that's what I recommend most creators do.
And I think that's an important distinction because there are people who are trying to make money by monetizing a YouTube channel. And there are people, presumably the folks listening to this, who are not trying to do that. They're just trying to reach prospects, clients, be helpful, and make money indirectly off of the YouTube. And so, or wherever the video might be deployed. So no use trying to game algorithms and be annoying. Respect your listener, respect your audience, and treat their time as precious because it is.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I always think of when I'm making a YouTube video is like I cut out anything that doesn't have to, that doesn't provide value for my audience, just leave in the meat of the content, That I think that's most important when creating videos.
Yeah, I've got a little demo of some features that I've got. I just recorded it right before we got on this call, and I don't know how long it is. It's probably like 10 to 15 minutes. I'm guessing it's going to be like 3 minutes by the time I cut everything out, me umming and ahhing and not knowing what I'm talking about certain places, because people don't need to hear that.
And what's really nice is that there's a lot of software, different softwares out there that can auto edit for you, all the ums and the filler words and stuff. CapCut's a really good tool to use. The tool I use, Premiere Pro, has like auto, remove silences, remove filler words. So there's a lot of tools, especially in this day and age when it comes to editing and
Mhm.
video, that can help you really speed up the process get to that final video.
So let's get to editing in a second, but let's go back to actually creating the content first. So we've got some notion, hopefully, if we're talking to people about what they want to hear. We've got a phone. Is there a particular microphone that we should use? Can we use the webcam in our computer to record video? How do we get set up to record that first video?
I think equipment comes first. So deciding whether you want to shoot on your phone, and the quality of your phone, because each phone's different, whether you have the iPhone Max or versus like maybe a little cheaper phone. But you want to determine, video quality. I recommend shooting in at least 1080p. That's a resolution. So, 1920 by 1080, that's the amount of pixels that's being recorded. 4K is crisper. It's a common term that people hear. But I would focus on trying to get your equipment first. So maybe if it's a phone, or if you have a budget, you can upgrade to maybe a camcorder or a DSLR camera. So this is like, a photography camera that you would see at like, different areas. But I would focus on getting that. If you have a budget, go for it. Buy a camera. When it comes to audio, I would probably recommend getting like a lavalier microphone. When I first started, this is like a little clip-on microphone that you can put onto yourself. It also really depends on your environment too. But what's nice about the lavalier microphone is that it's omnidirectional. So it picks up all the audio around you. So it gets a nice clear signal that you can use for your videos. And I have the DJI mics. Those are the ones that I use. And then lighting is the other part of that. Some people, if you have the budget, you can get a light kit, but you can, if you're in a very bright room, you might not have to worry about lighting so much. You just want to make sure there's enough light on you that can project, and so people can see you. But if you don't have lighting, or maybe you are in a dark space, maybe shooting by a window where you can get more natural light is always a good recommendation as well.
What are you doing for lighting right now?
So right now there is kind of like a giant soft box over me to the left, and that's most of the light. So it's kind of like a light, but it's surrounded kind of like with a cover on it. So it's very intense, but it diffuses it. So you can see it's more of like a soft light hitting my face. And then in front, there's like another kind of like eye light that's hitting me. And this is very common. A lot of times they put them on top of the cameras. It
Mhm.
just adds a little bit of eye light. That way people can clearly see you a little bit more, a little bit better. And then also I do have a reflector to the right here. So it's kind of like bouncing light back on me. But that's the really advanced like lighting setup. Someone actually helped me put this together. So,
So you don't need
but
that
yeah.
to start.
No, you probably don't need that to start. But
How
if you
how
want
is
to get
my lighting?
creative, I would say your lighting's great. Yeah. I mean, the thing that I look for in lighting is like, can I clearly see you? So I can, it's evenly lit. You're clearly in frame. That's the biggest thing. If it's grainy, dark, you don't really want those type of videos. So like, if you're shooting in a room with the lights off, it could be as easy as turning on the light, and that makes your video a lot better. You know what I mean? So it's just a matter of making sure that you're lit, not grainy, not dark. Those are the main keys.
And just as point of comparison, I do not have the fancy setup that John has, but I have windows in front of me that have some screens in front of them because otherwise it gets too bright and gets in my eyes sometimes. And then I have a little light that sits on top of my monitor. And I find that that gives sort of more front light on my face versus the lights in the room. Then I kind of look like I'm in some weird detective movie because the lights are over my head and the shadows are weird. So
Yes.
not a big deal. I think that the little light I bought was like $20 on Amazon or something like that. It was nothing super fancy.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
you mentioned it would be nice if you want to have a DSLR for like really crisp 4K video, But do we need that to start?
Not necessarily. I mean, if you wanted to use your laptop, you can use the built-in webcam, depending on the quality level as well. You can use different softwares to record, the feed from the webcam, or you can use your phone, like we talked about earlier. You can set this up. You can buy maybe an adapter that can kind of go on this and hold it in front of the, wherever you're going to be filming in. But yeah, you can use that to get started. The most important thing is to get started, share the content, and help your customers at the end of the day.
All right, so let's say we create a video, maybe a couple of videos that just answering common FAQs. Um, where do we put these videos? Sorry, before we distribute them, we have to edit them. You mentioned CapCut. What else might we be thinking about in terms of doing a good job of editing without driving ourselves nuts?
Yeah, I think another part of it comes down to scripting, I think, as well. So having a good idea of like what, you have the idea for the video, making sure that, you have a strong idea for the video when recording it makes editing a lot easier. Because if you just kind of just go for it and you go right into the video, it might just be all over the place. So just making sure that you have your, the FAQ or whatever the script is, making sure you got that down, what it should be in the end, thinking of what it should look like in the end, knowing kind of the vision of the video makes it a lot easier in editing. Usually there's like a hook or like, or I like to say a promise, like the first 30 seconds of the video. You should maybe start the video saying, in this video, I'm going to talk about this because it's a very common question. A lot of people ask me about this, and this is why it's important. And then you go into the meat of the content and then maybe a wrap up at the end. That's kind of like the basic outline, for most videos, I would say. But kind of having that structure in mind while you record and, when you get into editing, then you can focus on putting it together. But like you said, CapCut's a really good tool to use. I think the other things when it comes to editing, it doesn't necessarily have to be, fancy. But like we mentioned earlier, you probably want to cut out the ums, the uhs, the filler words, making sure it's understandable. One common thing when people are first starting out is they like to repeat themselves sometimes. So just making sure, you say something once, okay, move on to the next thing. Or like sometimes you rephrase what you just said again, you know what I mean? So just making sure that it's concise when you're going through the video. It's not too repetitive. It gets to the point. That's probably the most important aspect. Later down the line, you can maybe add music, add like photos, graphics. You can really, spruce up videos, but starting out, you can just get your main edit done. I think that's probably the most important aspect of it.
And then do you add subtitles or do you let the platforms add subtitles for you?
I recommend, so a lot of the editing softwares will generate the transcript and create captions for you, like CapCut. I know Premiere Pro, the editor I use, will do that. But I always recommend proofreading it and not letting the software do it, because if you auto do it, there might be errors and stuff. So it's always good to maybe proofread and uh, take control of the captions before you have the software do it. Or you can have it do it and then catch the mistakes, I would say. But I would recommend, if it's going on social media, definitely for sure, because a lot of the different apps, whether it's Instagram, maybe even LinkedIn. I haven't been on LinkedIn in a while, but some of them play the video while it's on mute. So people might be watching the video, but they're not hearing anything. So if you bake in and you make captions in your video, it ensures that people are going to understand the video because they can see the visual captions.
That makes a lot of sense, but just to play devil's advocate, some of these platforms will auto add the captions sometimes on top of the other captions, and then you've got like competing captions going on, and I guess better to have two captions, one of which you can turn off than have no captions.
Correct. So there are two different types of captions. There's the baked in captions, and then there's like closed captions. So if you heard the term closed captions, the reason why they're closed captions is because you can close them. So you can turn them off. And that's
I didn't
usually
know
like a
that.
metadata. Yeah, yeah. It's I didn't know that too for a while. And I Googled it. Why is it called closed captions? It's because you can close them. But that's essentially like a metadata file, or kind of like a text file essentially, that's
Hmm.
uploaded with the platform, and the viewers can turn it on, turn it off. Where baked captions, or what they're technically called, are open captions. So there's open captions and closed captions. Open captions are open, they're baked into the video, you can't turn them off. and they can run into that error where other captions are overlaid to it. So what you're seeing is open and closed captions competing with each other. Um, but I would just do research on the platform. Each platform is going to be a little bit different. Like YouTube, when you upload baked in captions, you have to turn off the closed captions, on the platform when you're going back. Or, if you can upload like closed captions with your video, essentially as like a script file. It's called a SRT file, but that can be a sidecar upload file that you can upload to the platform as well. But it really depends on the platform.
But if you don't have that, can you, at least at the beginning, just say, well, okay, well, people will just turn on the closed captions on the platform if they want to see that?
Yes, but I think it also depends on the platform because I don't think Instagram has closed captions, but I'm
Hmm.
not 100% sure.
I
It,
don't
it
know.
really depends on the platforms because each platform is going to be different.
Okay.
But yeah, I would just experiment, do some research, and then just kind of go from there, I would say.
Now, a lot of the videos I see, they have kind of fancy beginning screens. And I noticed there's sort of these trends on YouTube where all the videos sort of start looking the same for a while and then they go into some different format, but they sort of have this fancy background with usually a face taking up some part of it and then some other fancy graphics. And then some of them have sound effects and graphics and maybe screen sharing and other things built in. How important is that stuff, especially when you're just getting started?
Yeah, I think it can be very overwhelming, and even I get overwhelmed, editing videos because you can do so much. You can add all the graphics and musics and different aspects to it. But I think at the end of the day, what you really need to focus on is the content. And if there's something in your video where you talk about something specific that needs more clarification, that's a good indication when you want to add one of those elements. So maybe you're explaining something, but it's hard to actually talk about just with you on camera talking about it, where it would be a lot easier to maybe show a photo of something
Hmm.
or maybe a screen recording of something. That's when you would want to use that, I would say, especially starting out. I would reserve like that's called like B-roll content or like overlay type of content if it needs more clarification on the aspect that you're trying to explain, I would say.
Now, just selfishly, I do a lot of stuff where I've got a screen recording going on because I'm saying, well, click here to do this and then do that and blah, 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 blah. And I used to have like a little talking head of myself in the corner. And then I decided that that was distracting. And it also meant that I had to shave and like care about more things. So I've taken that out. And some people are like, oh, it's really nice just to have the plain screen without any embellishment. Maybe they don't like looking at me. And other people are like, I really missed you having your face because it feels like there's a person there. Do you have any strong thoughts on that or how to resolve that optimally?
Yeah, I think I if I do a picture in picture, which I've done on my channel because my YouTube channel is a tutorial channel, so it does share my screen a lot of times. And I've experimented both ways of just full screen, just the window, or like do I add myself in there? I think it really depends on what you're sharing and if there is a good negative space to put yourself. For me, is there like a good area to kind of place me where it's not going to be distracting on what I'm trying to show? I think that's
Hmm.
the main thing to see. And that's different depending on the type of screen that you're sharing. So it's really subjective. But that's the main thing I would look for. In my content, I like not doing it and not doing picture in picture like that, where you see both yourself and the screen, just because you just show the screen itself. You can often make it bigger. It's the main focal point, and it just eliminates that factor of people maybe complaining and not being able to digest the content.
Got it. Okay, great. That's a great excuse. All right, I'm going to stay off screen on my screenshot recordings,
And you don't
guys.
have to shave.
Right. Totally. Um, Now that actually brings up another point, which is I think we all go through this, especially when you're trying to get started and you're like, oh my gosh, I do not like how I look on video. I know I should be doing this. It's not that hard, but I do not want to be on video. I hate the look of my face. I hate the sound of my voice. My lighting isn't great. What are you like? And we all know that it's like just intellectualizing that we're nervous, but how do we get over that?
Yeah, at the end of the day, when I first started, I really tried to focus on the content or just trying to focus on the value. And I know it's also awkward talking to the camera or talking to a
Hmm.
webcam or a phone, whatever, however you're recording your content. What I like to do is I try to imagine the person I'm talking to. And that kind of relieves the tension and the nerves of actually delivering the content, speaking. It's kind of like the old saying of like, try to imagine them naked when you're up on, stage speaking. Just imagine the audience, out there. But I would say just try to focus on the content, try to focus on the person you're helping, and that'll take the attention off of you. Because that's the main issue is that you're focused on yourself. You need to bring that attention off of you and focus on the content and the viewer.
Another technique that I've heard about to deal with this, and I'm curious to get your take on it, is to literally do what we're doing now. You have a Zoom call, and you can even provide the other person the questions to sort of interview you. And then we often sound much more natural when we're just happen to be speaking to another person. And then you can flip it around and do the same thing for them. And then you each have video that's often much more natural than when you just stare at the camera and try to record.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is. Yeah.
And that's another thing that I think we all have Zoom content, and it may or may not be great, may or may not be lit the way we want, et cetera. But if you've got a few minutes of you doing some presentation for a Zoom group that's recorded, like that might be something that you can chop into a video really quickly without having to get on camera again.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. If you already have content, you have, sales meetings, calls where it's just you answering a question, you can repurpose that type of content,
So
definitely.
let's talk about repurposing, because this is something that I'm hearing a lot about. The notion that you sort of have, here's my long video, whether it's 10 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour or whatever it is, but I'm going to take little slivers of it and turn them into shorts or reels or whatever the terms are. And this is supposed to really help engagement and let people have a little taste or something, but I don't know anything really about it. Tell me what I should know.
Yeah, I think short form content, it's definitely very popular these days, especially with TikTok, all the short form media that's out there, YouTube Shorts. YouTube launched a platform called Shorts where you see like the vertical short form content. Instagram has Instagram Reels, and a lot of the other platforms are getting into it as well. But that's the big thing is in a lot of the ways creators have been utilizing that and business owners have been utilizing it is that maybe there is a bigger piece of content, whether it's a podcast, a keynote speak, some type of larger long form video that's like 30 minutes to an hour long, maybe. And you can, break it apart and kind of like they're almost like trailers or teasers, kind of like a movie trailer, essentially. You just want to find the exact moments that are most impactful that are going to turn heads and get people's attention. I would say on a key, issue or maybe problem they're having or a really good tension point, essentially. And you want to trim those, make them like 30 to 60 seconds, and then put them on those platforms. There's a lot of tools that you can use to do that. The one I've been really using a lot, I really like them, is called Riverside. And they have this feature called Magic Clips. And what you can do is upload your video there, and then you can trim it using keywords. So say if you're talking about something specific, like I did one where I interviewed a person that went to college. I was like, oh yeah, well, I'll type in college experience or like whatever the keywords are. And it will find in the transcript those moments. And using AI, it will find and trim down, a bunch of different 30 to 60-second videos from that 30-minute, 40-minute presentation or podcast. So you don't have to manually sit there and through hours and hours of footage trying to find, the 30 to 60 seconds worth.
That's awesome. I need to try something like that. And maybe we'll create a short or two from this interview.
Yeah, definitely. I've been trying Riverside. I really like their platform.
Are there any other tools that you feel like people should know about if they're not necessarily professional grade tools? I'm assuming if you're a professional video editor, you know about the tools. That's great. But if you're new, what are some ones that you might want to check out?
If you do need like visuals or like, if you do need more assets for your videos, there are a lot of free asset websites out there. One I use is like freepik.com. It's pick with a K, so FREEPIK.com. That's great for stock photos, stock graphics, if you need things like that. Stock music websites. What's really nice is whether you're on Facebook or maybe even YouTube, they come with their own stock music library. So when you are a creator on YouTube, there's already like music that you can use for your videos, as well as a lot of other, stock music websites out there. But I think gathering, free assets that you can use or finding tools that can automate the process are probably the most important things. And a lot of the main ones we already talked about, like CapCut, auto editing, auto creating captions, or even Riverside trimming down in like, the 30 to 60-second clips. Those tools are going to save you probably the most amount of time, I would say.
Okay. And then let's say we've got our video. How do we distribute? Where do we distribute? How do we promote? How do we let people get a chance to actually watch?
Yeah, so I would recommend always maybe uploading it to YouTube. I think that could be a great place to host it. A lot of businesses have their own website. So like say if you do have a FAQ, area on your website, you can always, add the video to that. So what's nice about YouTube is you can upload it to YouTube and then embed it elsewhere. You can copy that YouTube embed link and put it on your website, put it on your blog. You can repurpose and kind of reroute it depending where you want it to be displayed at. Or you can even maybe put it in an email if you do email marketing. There's a lot of different ways you can do, distribute it just from having like a YouTube embed link, essentially. So I do recommend YouTube for sure, getting it up on there. Even if it's not public, even if it's just unlisted and you just, copy and paste the link to wherever you want it. But that's a good place to begin. If you want more traction, LinkedIn is great. All the other social media platforms are great, like Instagram for Reels or TikToks for, the short form content like we were talking about. But for long form content, probably YouTube is king if you want to upload like, a keynote speak or like, a podcast episode or something really long form, that's probably the place to go, I would say.
Okay, great. And just for our folks using Mimrin, so if you've got some long form training, maybe you did a webinar or something like that, something I like to do is take a little short version of that and use that publicly to promote it and maybe give people some nuggets. And then if you want the full thing, put that embedded in a lead magnet. And so that way people can come in and watch that at their leisure. This has been super helpful. And I think the main thing is just, hey, don't think that you have to out Hollywood right at the beginning. Just be helpful to your customers and the rest will follow. If people want to find out more, I know you've got some additional resources on your site. Where can they find you?
Sure, absolutely. So you can find me at johnthevideoguy.com. If you're interested in starting your own YouTube channel, I put together kind of like a worksheet that you can download and use. It's completely free to use. Feel free to get that if you want to strategize and come up with a plan for your channel.
Awesome. And of course, John the Video Guy is a very easy website to remember, but just in case, all the links will be in the show notes as always. John, thank you so much. Thanks for coming on and cheers.
Yeah, thank you, Ruben. It was nice being on your show. Thank you for having me. Cheers.
Thanks for listening. Drop an iTunes review or a review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you've got a friend who would benefit from this episode, let them know about it. If you've got a friend who wouldn't benefit from this episode, but you just haven't talked to for a while, now's a great time to give them a call. Thanks for listening. Until next time.